Most people plan retirement by looking at the most popular beach cities. That might be the mistake, because while those places get more expensive and more crowded, nearby towns are quietly doing something else. They're building slower mornings, more familiar faces, water views without luxury pricing. These towns aren't hidden, they're just ignored. And once you see what daily life actually looks like there, it's hard to understand why more people aren't paying attention. We're exploring underrated US beach towns that quietly make sense for retirement in 2026. Not because they're famous, but because daily life there actually works. Calabash, North Carolina, where the beach feels personal. Calabash doesn't try to impress you at first. There are no towering resorts, no neon boardwalks, no pressure to be anything other than what it already is. And that's kind of the point. This small North Carolina town sits near the border with South Carolina, surrounded by marshes, inlets, and seafood docks that still look like they're used for work, not decoration. It's known as the seafood capital of the world, which sounds like marketing until you realize how central food really is to daily life here. Retirees aren't coming for nightlife, they're coming for routines. A favorite restaurant where the staff remembers your name, golf courses that don't feel overrun, evenings where the loudest sound is boats idling back into the marina. What stands out is how balanced it feels. Calabash stays quiet, but it's not isolated. 2 airports are within reasonable driving distance. Major medical care isn't a long haul. You get small-town calm without the anxiety of being cut off. It feels like a place that understands aging doesn't mean stopping. It just means slowing the pace enough to enjoy things again. And once you notice that rhythm, you start looking for it elsewhere. Sunset Beach, North Carolina. Feels like it made a conscious decision not to overbuild. It's a barrier island town, but instead of walls of condos, you see low homes, dunes, and long stretches of shoreline that don't feel boxed in. When you walk the beach, there's space. Not just physically, but mentally. People here talk slower. Mornings feel unhurried. Even the town layout seems designed to last rather than impress. What struck me most was how often locals talked about community, not in a forced way, but casually. Neighborhood events, volunteer groups, small gatherings that revolve around the beach itself instead of attractions layered on top of it. For retirees, that predictability matters. The town isn't reinventing itself every 5 years. It's not chasing trends. And there's a quiet comfort in knowing that while bigger coastal cities chase tourism dollars, Sunset Beach is mostly focused on being livable. It's close enough to busier areas for hospitals and shopping, but far enough that you don't feel the chaos seep into daily life. It feels steady, and that steadiness carries weight when you're choosing where to settle. Lillian, Alabama. Flips the usual beach dream slightly sideways. Instead of living directly on the open Gulf, residents live along Perdido Bay, calmer water, gentler winds, fewer crowds. It's still coastal, still scenic, but noticeably more relaxed. Here, the water feels like something you use, not just something you look at. Kayaks glide by in the mornings. Fishing feels routine, not recreational theater. Boats sit in backyards, not just marinas. There's also something practical happening here. Living on protected water often means less storm exposure, less insurance stress, and fewer surprise costs. Details that start to matter a lot once you're on a fixed income. Lillian is small, very small, and that can be either comforting or claustrophobic, depending on what you're looking for. But for the retirees who choose it, that size is the appeal. They're trading crowds for familiarity, noise for nature, status for simplicity. And if they want a classic beach day, the Gulf is still close enough, just far enough away that it doesn't dominate life year-round. Punta Gorda, Florida. It's a small Gulf Coast city, but it doesn't feel rushed or over-designed. The downtown is walkable, the harbor is active without being overwhelming. Festivals happen, but they don't take over the town. What stands out here is infrastructure. This is a place built to function, not just to attract. Healthcare access is strong, public spaces are well used, and the city clearly understands its older residents aren't an afterthought. They're the backbone. There's also a financial reality that makes Punta Gorda quietly appealing. Compared to Florida's flashier coastal cities, prices here stay grounded, and the lack of state income tax still matters to retirees doing long-term math. What I noticed most, though, was how little Punta Gorda tries to sell itself. It doesn't shout for attention. It just works. And sometimes, that's the most reassuring thing of all. Fort Pierce, Florida. It's along Florida's Treasure Coast, But it doesn't behave like a tourist town that forgot to leave room for residents. The downtown still feels local. Historic buildings haven't been erased. People walk, talk, linger. There's a sense that life here continues year-round, not just when visitors arrive. For retirees, that makes a difference. It's easier to build routines, easier to make friends, easier to feel like you belong somewhere rather than temporarily occupy it. The beaches remain surprisingly uncrowded. Boating and fishing are part of daily life, not luxury experiences. And the cost of living doesn't punish you for wanting ocean access. It's not perfect, no town is, but Fort Pierce feels honest, like it hasn't been smoothed into something artificial yet. And that honesty gives it a kind of quiet charm. Crescent City, California. Cool air, open space, no rush. Crescent City doesn't fit the usual California beach stereotype. The water is colder, the air is crisp, the pace is slow. But that's exactly why some retirees fall in love with it. This town sits near redwood forests in the Pacific Ocean, offering dramatic scenery without the intensity of Southern California. There's no pressure to keep up, no endless summer energy. Instead, life feels grounded in nature. Morning fog rolls in, waves crash steadily. The lighthouse still matters. Crescent City feels remote in the best way, not disconnected, just quiet enough to hear yourself think. For retirees who prefer scenery over nightlife and reflection over buzz, this kind of environment can feel deeply restorative. It's not for everyone, but for the right person, it feels like breathing room. Eureka, California. A coastal town that works year-round. Eureka is larger than Crescent City, but it carries the same Northern California calm. It's a working port city, and that changes everything. Life here doesn't shut down when tourists leave. Jobs remain, services stay open, the town continues. Victorian homes line the streets. Museums sit near the harbor. Beaches feel expansive rather than curated. For retirees, that year-round rhythm creates stability. You're not living in a place that only exists half the year. Eureka also attracts people who value culture and walkability over sunshine guarantees. The weather stays cooler, the crowds stay thinner, and the sense of place stays intact. It feels real. And for many, that authenticity outweighs warmer temperatures or trendier locations. What connects all these towns isn't fame or perfection, it's balance. They offer water without overwhelm, beauty without spectacle, and daily life that feels manageable instead of performative. Retirement isn't just about where you live, it's about how your days feel once you get there. I'll keep finding the world's hidden corners. You just have to click subscribe to come along.